And on the topic of reaching across the aisle, you've worked with the federal government to receive COVID-19 assistance. There's been a year of Joe Biden in the presidency. What would you say is the biggest difference between how he's handled the coronavirus pandemic versus President Trump's handling of the pandemic?
Well, a couple things. I have to be honest, I think communication's been frustrating. I don't mean to lead with the negative. I try to stay very positive, but I think I speak for all governors when I say Republican and Democrat. You know, when in 2020, when we were on the phone every week with the administration, you had the president, the vice president taking a lead role as a governor who was really managing the process in our own states, Republican and Democrat alike. We could talk to the decision makers. We had direct contact with them. We could get their feedback. And they could hear from us. And I think that was a very powerful tool in giving America the transparency and connection to decisions at the federal level, what we could transpire here at the state level and get out to our citizens. We're essentially the localized mouthpiece, if you will, for what was happening at the national level. We don't really have that anymore. I think of all of our calls, we do a weekly call on COVID. I think the president and vice president have participated in 2 of them in the past year. That's frustrating. Now, they have good people at the White House. Don't get me wrong. They have managers and all of that. We talk to Dr. Fauci almost every week. We talk to the CDC almost every week. But to not talk to the final decision makers, there's a barrier there. And you want to make sure that the questions we have, the concerns that we have, not just as governors, but what we're hearing from our communities is being truly relayed all the way up the chain to the decision makers that ultimately move things forward. So the very tough communication, to be sure. You know, each of the administrations has a bit of a different approach. Again, the former administration was more state-centric. I think this administration tries to control everything much more out of Washington. There are some benefits and some downsides to each of those, but I think communication is probably the most frustrating difference that we've seen.